XXFM.
This is Access Houston on 97.9 The Box.
Good Sunday morning. You are listening to Access Houston. I'm your host, KG Smooth, welcoming in the studio. First timer to the program, I would like to welcome the board chair of Super Bowl of Caring, the lovely Dr. Judith Craven. Good morning.
Good morning, and how are you today?
I'm doing
Good.
well.
Thank you for having me.
Good to see you. Lovely smile. I like your
you.
spirit. So, the Super Bowl of Caring, not to be confused with Super Bowl, but super is spelled like soup, Souper, Bowl of Caring. So, tell us about Super Bowl of Caring and what you all do. Honestly, this is my first time hearing.
And that's why I really appreciate being able to be on the show and tell people about a well-hidden secret, as I call it.
Yeah.
And it's appropriate that it's Sunday morning because it was on a Sunday morning in a youth Sunday school class around the Super Bowl time. And all the advertisements were out about get ready for your parties and buy food, buy food, buy food.
Mm-hmm.
And that Sunday school class, the Reverend Brad Smith at that time led a prayer asking the kids, would they be conscious of the fact that while everyone's out buying all of this food for Super Bowl, that there's some people that don't even have a bowl of soup. And it was after the holidays. And, as you know, there are a lot of food drives around Thanksgiving and Christmas and holidays. Yeah. And people don't realize, that's a consumable product. And come February, those shelves are empty again. Mm-hmm. And so it's to bring that awareness at a highly visible time where a lot of people are concentrated watching it. And the class came up with some different dreams. Wouldn't it be nice if on Super Bowl of Sunday we could take up a collection in all of the religious institutions, and if everybody just gave $1 and contributed back to their communities in whatever way towards the needs of hunger and hunger-related issues, what an impact that would make. So it was those youth that started doing that. And so they did that in their church. They also did food collections, and they contacted other churches of their same denomination, and it spread across the nation.
Wow, that is incredible because, excuse me, unfortunately, we have a hunger problem in this country.
We have a tremendous hunger problem, and sometimes how people have defined what hunger is or why they think someone's hungry is so much bigger than that. You think of the person on the street holding the sign and saying they want something to eat, and they definitely need it.
Right.
And they're just one of thousands of faces of hunger. You've got the elderly that have no children around to help them, and they can't get to a grocery store to buy food or prepare a meal. So Meals on Wheels is not necessarily about economics. It's about the fact that they can't even get to do it. They don't have the ability to prepare their own meals. You have individuals during times of disaster that lose everything.
Yeah.
When we really think about that, it's, we have this idea that it's this stark face of poverty, which it really is in many instances, but there's so many other types of things. If you look at the bankruptcies due to medical calamities that happen in people's families, and they're struggling just to get that cancer drug or get that care for their elderly parents, that being able, food is something that you can cut down and say, I'll eat a little less of. Or I'll get some Roman noodles and last me for the next year. It's that type of a thing. And yet and still, if your body isn't well nourished, it's very difficult to do something about your own life circumstances.
Yeah.
It makes learning difficult. It makes working difficult. And we have to think of it in a totally different way.
That was going to be my point, to piggyback off of what you just said. Like, okay, I'm going to eat Roman noodles for the rest of, this week, this month, this year. But your body's not getting the appropriate nutrients by just eating these pack of noodles.
Exactly. And do you know some college campuses, when I went to Columbia, where this organization got started for a luncheon there, and they had some student representatives from the university, and they were representing the fact that they had started a food pantry on the campus. Now, that kind of surprised me. I said, a food pantry? They said, cost of going to school. The eating goes to the side. We've got to pay tuition. We've got to buy books. We're living sometimes, some of us, from hand to mouth. And so they said the food pantry has become very important on the campus so that they can get some nutritious food.
Wow. As you were telling that story, Dr. Craven, it got me to thinking of a young black college student. I can't remember what school he plays football for, but he had a sign that said, college student, I play football, but yet I don't have anything to eat. And I thought to myself, when I saw it on social media, I thought to myself, well, isn't this tragic?
It is. And you know what? We've become somewhat of a judgmental society in terms of why we think people have the plights that they have, not understanding or ever having walked in their shoes as to why they're there. And that kind of leads me into why this program was so unique, because it took young people at an early age getting involved in communities so that by the time they become young adults, they have seen and done things and given back to their community in terms of a philanthropic way of looking at things. And so it developed some philanthropic leadership. So youth was a major and is a major component of this program today because it was youth inspired, and back then it was youth led in that area. I think when it moved its headquarters to Houston here in 2013, it had a whole different picture, because how it got started, how the movement got started in Houston was that at Dave Peterson's church, where the head of HEB attends, Dave Peterson was on the Super Bowl of Caring board. And he brought it up in their church that maybe they could do something. And the leadership of HEB came up to him afterwards and says, listen, here in Houston, here's what we can do. I'll challenge the other grocers, Randall's and Kroger's. And that's where you see the food banks. We'll compete with each other, and we'll partner with the food bank. And around those 3 weeks of Super Bowl, we'll sell these bags and it turned into a wonderful, wonderful event. And it's been going on for a number of years. And that was the beginning of Super Bowl of Caring in Houston.
Nice.
So when it moved its headquarters here in 2013, people knew Super Bowl of Caring as the grocers and the food bank. So even though some of the churches were participating, it had a part-time staff person here to coordinate that, but it didn't have the total youth involvement and reach out to all of the churches. And the reason it moved here was Bob McNair, being a friend of the founder of this organization, at an event that they both attended, said, how can I help? And of course, it sounds like a natural fit with the NFL. And according to Mr. McNair, he said, every NFL team should be really excited about this. This could be a real movement.
Yeah.
And so he offered to pay to move the headquarters here from Columbia, South Carolina, 3 years before the Super Bowl was going to be hosted here, and felt that they could use that event as to really get that greater Houston presence.
Yes.
So that's how we come to why I'm here today.
And I'm so glad that you're here. Yeah. You're listening to Access Houston. We're talking to Dr. Craven, who is the board chair for Super Bowl of Caring, and that's SOUPER, Super Bowl of Caring. For people that are listening and you're tugging at our heartstrings this morning with these stories and the incredible work that Super Bowl of Caring is doing. How can the community be more involved?
There are a number of ways, but to make it clear as to how some of them can get involved. So I want to talk about this youth component. Over the years, they developed a National Youth Advisory Board, and they had a staff that reached out to different parts of the country, through the churches, through schools, and asked if they had a student's name meeting certain criteria that they would be able to travel at least twice a year. They were to be seniors in high school, and come together and go through a curriculum that helped them identify their geographic area, what they thought were their food needs there, what the population had. They gave them all of that type of instruction on how to do that research. And while they were there that weekend, they had to develop a plan for their community, and they learned how to do PowerPoints and come back and on that Sunday, they would tell each other what their plan was for the city that they came from. Wow. Now, I had just gone on the board, and I wanted to attend one of those sessions, and it was just heart-wrenching to hear these young people get up and say, well, in my community, here are the problems,
Mm-hmm.
here's the need, and here's the gap that I want to fill. And when I go back, this is what I want to do in my community. We only have elementary schools running campaigns. I'm going to approach the middle schools and see if they will do it. And then the next year, we could do the senior high schools for just a food collection. And he said, I'm also going to see if I can get my Sunday school class and church involved in the collection and Super Bowl. And then another part of it might be my dad knows 3 business people downtown, and I'll see if they will at least allow the soup pot to go in the week of the Super Bowl. Then they come back after the Super Bowl, and they tell us what success they had or didn't have. Now, how the headquarters handles this is we develop all of the materials so that the camp, the posters, we give them the playbook on how to do it, all the numbers are reported either by telephone to us or through the computer. And the uniqueness of the program was that as they devised this, they needed to say the impact in their community, because that campaign, everything that they do stayed in that community.
Wow.
And how this grew beyond hunger was they found that when they did food collections, the people that came in for the food may have walked miles because they didn't have money for what I used to call bus fare.
Yeah.
Or they come in and it's cold and they don't have coats. And so it started being more, and this is the uniqueness in how we differ from other hunger organizations. The hunger serves as a catalyst to identify many times that young mother that came in and picked up a bag of food for her kids and is pregnant and saying, I don't know what I'm going to do for formula and things later on. I'm not healthy enough to nurse.
Mm-hmm.
And we think of cans of foods,
Mm-hmm.
bags of rice.
Right.
You need nourishment for all ages.
Yes, indeed.
So they would come back and report to us. And I told them, I said, this is the best kept secret. You're not giving these outcomes. And these kids are passionate. They're absolutely passionate about these things. So when we formed a Houston Local Youth Advisory Board, I was talking to some of the parents of the kids that were involved in this the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, Dr. Craven, she said, these kids are smart. They not only talk about this, because it came up the conversation about the homeless under 59.
Yeah.
We were talking about that as an adult, just adult to adult. She says, our kids talk about those kind of things. She said, did you know one of the kids said one time that the homeless issue needs to kind of be looked at as a kibbutz? Other countries do it. Instead of just trying to go the traditional route, we have some plans and thoughts that could handle that. So the bottom line is you're instilling in a young group of people early on before they become cynical
Yes.
and judgmental,
Yeah.
the fact that people have different things that impact their lives, and it's part of their responsibility to give back and make a difference in those lives.
It is.
It really is. And in today's society, it's not just check the box, I did my community service, so this goes towards my graduation, but it's something meaningful and caring,
Yes.
and that
And there's passion behind
there's
it.
passion behind it.
Yeah,
So-
a lot of older people or people from older generations give these kids, the millennials and below, a really hard time. I interact with them quite a few, and the youth that I talk to and that I interact with, they are very much aware, very much woke, very much willing to do things on their own to create the change. And I mean, they get it.
They get it.
They get it.
They get it big time.
Yeah.
They really do. And I think we would be producing a whole generation of young people like that. So what has happened, I think I told you when we came, everyone knew Super Bowl of Caring in Houston from the grocer campaign contributed to the food banks. And so what I'm trying to do is to get more of the community involved along those lines. Now, I was fortunate enough last year through Cisco Foods, they are very much 75% of their not-for-profit dollars goes to the alleviation of hunger. When they heard about this program, they supported us to the tune of about $25,000 to $30,000 to help, because it costs about $700,000 to really run this campaign from a centralized office. Because the advertisements always said 100% of whatever you do stays in the community.
Oh.
Okay. The fundraising that the churches do and the schools do, or wherever you want it to go.
That's a reason to sit up straight.
That wherever you want it to go. So the local headquarters was really suffering, because unless you have the Bob McNairs and the others of the world, And but this is an ongoing organization, and we want it to go across truly in a bigger way. Can you imagine the impact if just that dream had been fulfilled of everyone giving $1?
Oh,
on
absolutely.
Super Bowl Sunday?
It would have been massive.
It would have been massive. So his vision was right on target. So what has happened is I've been trying to find folks that will give us sustainable donations towards the administrative costs. It's been difficult in the past for us to write grants and get those funded because people thought, oh, you only work around Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
But this is an activity that goes on all year long. You have to do the marketing, you have to get the materials, you have to establish the databases for where are the churches and the synagogues and everyone to get involved, to get the communications out. These youth programs have to be staffed. And what we're trying to do is create a model that we don't build a lot of staff on our part, that we could give a model to a community and say, here's what you do with the youth board. Here's the playbook for it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we'll consult with you on it,
Sure.
but not build us with extra staff. And we can take this to Dallas and we can take it to Austin and we can take it across the nation. Or, yeah, you would like a playbook on this? And that we still produce the materials. And the kids get business cards that validate so that when they go into a business to ask them would they run a campaign.
Nice.
And we write the letters to the principals to allow them, that gives them the legitimacy. And I really want to say a special thanks to the HISD. It's Super Bowl of Caring is the one large philanthropic project that they have authorized for students to do, and the only employee campaign that they allow.
Wow.
So that says a lot. So we're working with them to try and get other school districts involved. And during that time is what we're asking is that a school puts up a poster and someone takes the lead, and you're building philanthropic leadership.
Yes.
In terms of identifying what are the needs. You know, we do a lot of leadership programs that deal with business and growth, but this is one for giving back. And how do you do a fundraiser? And then how do you account for it at the end? How do you tabulate that, and how do you report it? And then how do you monitor the impact that it had?
Oh, that is some good stuff and great information.
Mm-hmm.
For people to learn more about Super Bowl of Caring, they should just go to
superbowl.org. And one of the things that we're going to be in the process of looking at is our websites. We've been doing some focus groups, and some are saying that they're not as easy to manipulate as, you know, in this day and age. Now realize I'm over 70, so websites are difficult for me.
Wait a minute.
So when you look at
You are not over 70, Dr. Craven.
Every bed and then some.
Wow.
But so I'm really fortunate to have a group of volunteers. As you know, I have 2 daughters, and my daughter's friends and they're professionals. They're all volunteering, but they found, you know, I always kind of garner everybody to get involved, right? Uh-huh. And so I had a house full a couple of weeks ago saying, listen, we're in financial problems and I need your help. And I said, our staff has been decreased because we don't have the money, but each of you have different skill sets, and they're volunteering. They're covering the areas of this. And Tony Harrison is the one that said, Aunt Judy, what can I do? And I said, listen, we need to revamp how we're marketing, and our website needs some upgrading. We need some, you know, our IT person is leaving, and this is an opportunity to look at some new IT skills. And I said, and I need help, and you all have them. They've been meeting, they've been coming together. It's been phenomenal. And it's taking us into this new age of, you know, where we really need to be. I just think this program has so much potential.
Oh.
And when you hear of programs being cut, such as Meals on Wheels,
oh my goodness,
and decreasing the lunch budgets, and decreasing, you know, food subsidy, it's scary. It's real, but you know what? It's no sense in us talking and complaining about it. Like you say, these kids and us need to get up and make a difference. Each one of us make a difference. Yeah. And if we empower young people and ourselves, we learn from it and we empower them, we can help.
Yeah, there's no stopping us.
Because, you know, I wring my hands sometimes about what's happening in the world, but that's not going to get anything done.
That's true.
Anything done. So we need churches to run campaigns. We need youth involved from the schools. We don't have much corporate support. it's an avenue. We know that, with the oil and gas and the impact that it's had on the Houston community, yet and still we're a thriving community. So we needed to get that word out, because when we did talk to some organizations, they said, well, we already give to the food bank, or we already do that. But this is more than that. For example, my church runs Manna House along with, it's a consortium of 5 churches. It's in the neighborhood. We do food drives we collect food almost every Sunday at our church. The other thing is because it's right across from the pastor's office and in another building across the street, we take a collection on the first Sunday, a second collection for the deacons, because people that come to the food bank over to our food pantry, they identify, I don't have the money for electricity this month. Mm-hmm. And so they're sent across to us, and we screen and we make sure, because it does no good. Or people say, well, I can't take fresh vegetables. I have no place. I don't have refrigeration. It lets you see a whole host of things. When you work in a food facility, all of the ancillary problems that are associated with it. Maybe we need to buy a few hot plates. Mm-hmm. They don't have an oven, or they don't have that. And to make it happen, we assume that just by handing that bag of groceries, check that off the list. It's not like that. It's not that easy, huh? So I've kind of been all over the place. I wanted to try and get a lot out in a bit of time, but I'm just glad we're getting a chance to get this word out to our community.
And I'm glad that you stopped by the program to let us know about this, because it is very important. I mean, I absolutely love the fact that the youth are the ones who, spearheaded this and has gotten it going and everything. Is there a social media campaign? Because, that's everybody lives on their phone. So for those that are listening, if they want to follow on Instagram or Twitter.
Because this is my passion. My husband and I, over the years, folks know that we're big supporters of education. And we feel both of us would not have been where we are today if it hadn't been for the educational institutions that got us there. Yes. So we've been big supporters of endowed scholarships at those universities. So I'm taking a little liberty. My husband passed 3 years ago, but we usually had about $100,000 that we would give to those type of endeavors. Mm-hmm. And so this year, I'm doing a $50,000 challenge match to the community. This is strictly for our administrative costs and begin to buy that visibility. So I will match up to $50,000, any donation, that comes in along those lines, so that we can have that for our administrative costs and put the staff back in place to run these youth programs. Because right now the youth programs are on suspension. We're doing it by technology and not in person. Mm-hmm. And that really bothers me that we don't have that component.
You need boots on the ground.
We
need
boots
touch.
on the ground, exactly.
And
you need continuity.
Yeah.
We'll have volunteers that will work with the program, but you need that staff person that coordinates it. And when you bring youth in from out of another city, there's a lot of accountability that goes with that, as you can imagine, putting them up in hotels and doing these kind of programs. So we need that kind of funding to do that. So that match is out there. It started out, it was supposed to end in July, but I've extended to the, school. It's coming up, because we want to get as much as we can in. So that's the real big thing, is this $50,000 challenge match.
Well, I'm sure it's going to go well. Everything sounds absolutely incredible. I want to thank you for your time. Dr. Judith Craven, who is the board chair at Super Bowl of Caring. For more information, log on to superbowl.org. That's super, SOUPER, bowl.org. And they'll have all the information there. Dr. Craven, this was some great conversation. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you. At some point, you might want to talk to a parent and a child about what this program has done.
Absolutely.
In their lives.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening to Access Houston.
We'll be back with more Access Houston on 97.9 The Box.